Hey everybody. So welcome back to the ENFOS Expert series of webinars. So if this is your first ENFOS Expert webinar, this is where you upgrade your ENFOS game. So far, we've covered document management, compliance, reporting, and the ENFOS mobile app. So if you've missed any of those, check out our YouTube channel or the ENFOS help module to find them. So today we have Torrie Behrens going through some overall tips and tricks for use in ENFOS. So some things that can make your workday easier, quicker, and just overall more efficient. You are able to submit questions through the panel on your screen, so please don't hesitate to ask. We'll save about 15 minutes before the end to cover everything. We also welcome your general feedback about using ENFOS, so things you'd like to see or maybe suggestions for the subject of the next ENFOS Expert webinar. So lastly, this will be recorded and uploaded to the help module in the following days. So with that, I will give it to Torrie.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. As Chris mentioned, this topic is tips and tricks in ENFOS. And we're going to be discussing shortcuts to get you using ENFOS more efficiently and like an ENFOS Pro. I'm really going to show you how I use the system, right? And hopefully make some improvements on how you're already doing things. I know you're going to learn something new today. I went over my script. I have 47 different things we're going to talk about today. So we are talking about a ton of stuff. As Chris mentioned, use the chat. We've got people answering questions along the way. And we'd also like to hear from you, right? Chris said this too. Anything that you think of that there has to be a better way, send it to us in the chat. We want to know. And if we have a better way, we're going to show you in the questions and answers section. And if not, we're going to record it, right? And we're going to work with you to see if we can make it work better. So, you know, we're here and we're listening to what you have to say, and let's get going. So, you know, I know you may have seen this already, but I just want everyone to know, you know, if you're attending today's session, the ENFOS conference this September is a perfect place for you to be. We're doing a lot of things. I'm going to be there, you know, I've got my team here in the room with me. We're all going to be here. At the conference, there's a lot of presenters, but we're also doing training sessions. And we're doing 10 different training sessions. Some of these are on new functionality. We're doing a consultant super user training session. We're doing ENFOS business intelligence training sessions, new functionality related to like a general ledger dashboard. So if you have not already signed up, be sure to do that today, enfos.com, and click on the banner at the top to register. There's, you know, lots of items, including industry-specific presentations and tons of networking opportunity, including with me, right? You can come up and tell me how awesome my webinars are. As Chris mentioned, use the chat. You can also minimize the webinar, and you can minimize the webinar with the panel on the right side of the screen. Okay, so let's get going right away. As I said, we've got a ton to talk about, including questions and answers at the end. So first thing I'm going to do right away is talk about with our consultant users who have multiple ENFOS accounts, right? So you have an ENFOS account. These would be for ENFOS accounts that are on the web, right? And what you can do is use the same password for all of those accounts. And when you use that password, that's the same, you're going to see what I'm about to show here. There we go. You've got an option to which client to log in as. If you have different passwords, you're not going to see this. It's going to log you straight into that client. And if you only have access to one account, you're going to, you know, obviously be straight logged into that client. But if you have multiple accounts, the way to see this, right, the first thing you do is you make sure all of those accounts are active. And then you click your forgot your password link. And when you do that, you enter in your email and the security code. And in just a minute or two, ENFOS sends you an email. You click the link, and there you're prompted to reset your password, right? Anyone could do this. But that password that you reset, that's going to reset that same password for all of your active accounts. So now, the next time that you log in, you would see all of those accounts, right? And you get to choose, it's one less thing, one less password to manage and keep track of. In about 90 days, when that password expires, you can just do that again, right? Just click that, forgot your password again. And that's what I do every single time I reset my password. It helps me keep all of my accounts active, and it keeps everything kind of in sync. All right, great. So let's talk about some ENFOS basics kind of right at the beginning. Right, one more note on the passwords. Your admins, they cannot reset specific passwords for you. They typically would tell you to use that forgot your password link too. Okay. All right, so on your login page, you might not see this new tab page when you log in. We're going to talk about what you see when you log in just a few minutes. But if you don't see this, and if you're following along today, you can always open a new tab to see this page. This page is really important. As Chris mentioned, when we post a new webinar or a new training video, those are all listed here in this tutorial video section. And we're constantly building this up. Last quarter, we did a training on the ENFOS mobile app, and that one is listed here, right? And it's available, they're all on YouTube. I'm gonna spend 1 minute talking about the mobile app. We have this, right? It's a free ENFOS mobile app. It's available for iOS and Google Play, in the Android in the Google Play Store. And it allows you to see your ENFOS production data and do quite a few things within that mobile app. I'm not going to go through the training on the mobile app today. That's all listed in this tutorial video. But if you're not already using the mobile app, download it, give it a try. I think you'll like it. All right, on this page, we also have links to our getting support, right? Every once in a while, we'll hear questions, who's my administrator, right? That person is listed here in this contact support. They're gonna have either an email, a phone number, etc. We also have help articles. This is more content that is continually being built out. And at the bottom of this page, we have the most viewed help articles. But on any page in ENFOS, you can click this icon up in the top right. And that is the help articles, right? So if I click that and let it load, I can see all of my different help articles. If I search in, data, I get a ton of links on how to, access different items that come up for data. I have 77 results here. As I mentioned, this is continually being built out. It is step-by-step guides. Now, the information on this page, as well as the information on the tutorial video links here, is all what we would call the same information for all of our clients, right? So we're not using that client-specific terminology that you may be used to, but ENFOS generic terminology. So keep that in mind. Along the lines of, where to go for additional help and more information, I'm going to start navigating within the modules. And if I go to my user account, that's where we're going to start today. And the second icon down is community documents. This community documents folder, and if it's not open, make sure to open it up. This page is a great page. It's client specific, right? So if you're following along and you're in a different system, which you surely are because I'm in a test system, all the information here is specific to this client and what they load, right? So you might have things like training documents, SOPs, additional information, guidance documents. It's a great repository for all of this information. It has, you can download the documents, right? And you potentially would be able to upload documents. Administrators, this is available for all your users, so they would be able to see any of these shared documents. We're going to continue on and talk about our own user account and our user preferences. We've got the, I'm going to navigate to user preferences. And, within your user preferences, everyone has access to their own user preferences. And everything else in ENFOS, is controlled by permissions. I bet most of you guys set up your user preferences on the first day you used ENFOS and you haven't, touched it or looked at it since. And, after today, I really want you to take another look, make sure that this is working for you. So right at the top, we've got email notifications. Those are really straightforward. I do want to let everyone know in our last quarterly release, which was in May, we updated these email notifications, including more and more data. So you're going to receive more information in these email notifications. We're trying to make these better and more useful for you. I want to talk about some basic functionality that we see on every page. Right here at the top, this is going to make everything much quicker, right? Open all sections on the page or close all sections. It's a quick way to see all the data on your page. Anywhere in ENFOS, we can bookmark the page. I'm going to talk about the bookmark a bit more as we get into more relevant pages. We also have the section navigators, and this is a quick way, instead of scrolling, right, to just go exactly where you need to see. So let's say I want to look at my history section. I click history, ENFOS scrolls me all the way down to the bottom of the page, and I can see that. Now this section navigators and the section expander and collapser are available on all of the pages in ENFOS. We've got this amazing left panel. We're going to talk a lot about this left panel today, but I want to remind everyone that they can toggle that left panel closed. And on a page like this, there's not so much information, but when you start looking at your invoices, your proposals, your plans, a little bit more space on your screen is going to give you a lot more information without scrolling. You can always open it again by clicking to toggle that left panel open. But make sure to use that and really take advantage of the extra screen space. Finally, you can see I'm already doing this, right? We have multiple tabs in ENFOS. You can always use those. Throughout today's training session, I'm going to be opening a ton of tabs, and we can split our screens. So the split screen functionality becomes available once you have 2 or more tabs open. You can split your screen, click the button. Here's where I am absolutely going to close that left panel. And now I can view both of all this information on a single page. Now I'm looking at our new tab page and our user preference page. This information is not necessarily something I need to see at the same time, but imagine you're looking at your purchase order details and you're building out an invoice at the same time, or you have a document open and you're adding some activity at the same time. So it's a great way to do the same information at the same time in ENFOS. You can edit information on both these screens too. I'm going to unsplit them. You can, of course, close a tab, or you can click on that same icon to go back to a single screen. All right. So let's get into our user preferences. I'm going to go to my action items. And many of you are familiar. These action items are, for a lot of you, what you see right when you log in to ENFOS. A little lower on this page, we actually define what we see when we log in. These action items were probably set up for you, or you set them up on day one in training, right? And you haven't looked at them since. I want to talk a bit about the advanced filtering. And this advanced filtering is amazing, and it controls what you see on this page. What I do is, let's say I have to submit like 15 proposals. And instead of navigating to each project one by one, I update my action items to, show me the status of my proposals. So that would be my task cost estimation. I add that in and then I click save. That's going to update my action items to show me, just proposals in this status. You can select all of your statuses, right? We get support questions like this. How come I can't see anything that's in the rejected status? Well, add it into your action items and then you're going to see it on that page. You can also include items that are approved from a certain date, certain costs. etc. There's a lot of functionality here. And these action item filters are yours, right? It's just related to your own account. So make this work for you. So when you log into ENFOS, you see items that are the most important for you. Click cancel. So we've got those action items for each one of our financial types, right? Planning, proposal, purchase order, and invoicing. We also have how you're going to sort that information. I swear, we just got a support ticket in on this. I want to see the highest dollar value on the top. Well, there you go. It's in there. It's in the system. You can click that. It's always going to show it. Here's your number of rows, right? By default, ENFOS is going to show you 10 rows, but we know some of you have a lot of transactions to approve, especially here we are at the end of Q2, and you probably have a lot of transactions, right? You can show many transactions on that action items page. Now, just keep in mind, based on your internet speed, right? If we're showing a lot, 200 different transactions, the page might load a little slower. All right, as I scroll down, I wanted to talk a little bit about this miscellaneous section. I would not recommend clicking this view active sites only. I would leave it blank just as I have it. And the reason for that is because people forget that it's on, right? They forget this view active sites only is on, and then they freak out because they think they have a site that's missing, or they think something had been deleted. When in reality, someone just toggled the access from, active to maybe inactive, and now you no longer view it. So I would recommend leaving it unchecked. We've got our date format here, and we've got our date format, so you can always change in your date format. Login page. So I've been talking about this access, right? Or what you're going to see right when you log in. Most of you, it's defaulted to action items, but you may want to see the new tab page. Data insights, that's that BI functionality that, that our administrators have access to, and they're starting to roll out for everyone else. I would leave it in between action items or new tab for now. All right, just a few more items here. You can always clear your left panel. Your bookmarks, we're going to talk about these bookmarks as we get into favorites. You can always define how those are sorted. And on this page, be sure to always click Save, at the bottom of the page if you've made any edits. All right, I wanted to talk to our administrators just for a few minutes on some user account setup. For next approvers, right, and these are for employees, we have a lot of new functionality on next approvers. We can set up next approvers by hierarchy, right? Maybe you have a different hierarchy. And you can also set up alternate approvers. So I just got back from maternity leave. I could have set up an alternate approver. So anything that was sent to me while I was out on maternity leave would automatically be rerouted. I've got that rerouting here to Alexa Russell. So I don't need to let anybody know. I don't have to worry about things getting kind of caught on my dashboard. They automatically get resent. Now, with the alternate approver, make sure to turn it off once you're back. If you leave it on, you would not be able to approve those items because it would tell you that you have an alternate approver set up. As far as organizational access is controlled, what nodes your users have access to, we now have functionality to exclude nodes. So they can have access to everything except 1 or 2 nodes. That was something we didn't always have. And based off of when you went live with ENFOS, you might not have had it set up that way. Finally, limit groups. And let me come over here and we're going to look at the limit group for 1 minute. Okay, great. So limit groups have a lot of new functionality too. We're going to call this test. Limit groups can be set up by currency, right? So you can have different approval limits by the currency. They can be set up by expense type, and they can be set up by node path. Those limit groups are only available for the employee user account types, but there is more functionality on how to use those. All right, I'm going to navigate over to a site, and we're going to talk very briefly about site navigation. I know everyone here is, navigating to your sites. A reminder in our left panel, search everything. You do not need to type in the full site name. You can type in a portion of it, and ENFOS finds those close matches. Now, this searches sites and projects, but it also searches things like your financial IDs, activities, financial project ID numbers. So it searches a lot of different areas. You can always use this to navigate. Now, I told you we would talk about the favorites, and I would recommend all of the users here to bookmark your projects and your sites. And you can bookmark any page. I'm here in the site summary at my site level, but maybe you decide to, at your project node or your AOC node, you bookmark the financial page, your purchase order page, right? So then in our left panel, we have a link to where all your bookmarks, and you can show that full list of bookmarks and use that to navigate to that specific page, right? It's going to be quicker and easier to have your bookmarks, especially if it's to a financial page that maybe you're accessing more frequently than typing those items in. And I'm going to go back to my site summary page there. So use your bookmarks. That's up here at the top of the page. Remember, in our user preferences, you can define how your bookmarks are sorted. We also have browsing history. So again, another way to quickly navigate between your sites and your projects. These are all organized by module, but you can look at your browsing history to see, where you've been and and use those links to go back to that section. As we're on this page, we're also going to look at our activity calendar, and this calendar shows me my activities, right, that I have listed out for this day or maybe future days or past days, and I can see quickly, any activities that are coming up. All right, so I'm going to go back to that bookmark page. Favorite. All right, so let's look at some of our sections here. Something that I know is underutilized here are the site photos. And what a lot of you see here is just the Google map, right? And that's pulled off of your address or the latitude and longitude that's entered in your site summary. That also controls when you click your site marker here in the hierarchy bar, where you have access. There we go, there's our office. That marker here is in that hierarchy at our site level. I can click on that site marker and that shows me where our site is. But the photos, now I uploaded photos. I did that just by clicking this add photo. And if you add more than one, your photos turn into a carousel, right? So you can see your photos, as many as you load in here. It's a quick and great way to share photos at your site. You can delete those photos here, but they're also stored in the document section, right? And ENFOS automatically adds a folder called photo once you load one or more photos within that, that carousel up a little higher. And that's taking its time, so I'm just going to go back up to the summary. All right, on this summary section, you might notice some additional questions that you don't see in your own site summary, right? These are kind of listed here at the bottom. And what we're showing here are additional information questions, and these are new, right? So we've always had additional information. A lot of you are used to seeing that in its own section with its own permissions lower in the page, right? But now we have the ability to add additional questions within the site summary module, within your AOC summary module, within permits and proposals and invoices. So you can add in additional custom questions. You can also make those questions mandatory or visible, or not visible, invisible. And that's something that your administrator can do, right? They can set up these questions, they can define the permissions associated with them, they can set them mandatory, and they can set them the visibility flag. So this really adds a ton of functionality to this, this section, right? Now you can use your own custom names and answer types to add in additional data. This additional data can be reported out. We're going to talk more about the reporting module a little later, but these custom fields can be added to the end of some of your existing reports. So let's say you have your invoice report and you want to add in your remediation driver to your invoice report. Maybe you filter off of that data. You can load that in with the report criteria, and all of that data would be reported out. So additional information, it's been improved lately. I've talked about how we can add it to these different sections. We also have a lot of different new field types, including simple formulas, custom drop-down lists, comment boxes, check boxes. There's so much functionality related to additional information. There's not enough time to talk about all of it today. Admin set up the functionality. Great. I want to talk about a few other site level features. And one I want to talk about is something that I know a lot of people don't use, and I think it's a really awesome feature. It's under the site module, and it's called PM, or Project Manager Desktop. I love this page. I think it's like a one-pager, right? So I'm at a site, and what it does is it gives me a roll-up of everything going on at this site throughout all the modules. And it'll roll up multiple AOCs worth of data into our single site here. So, my first section at the top of the page is that site summary, documents, and contacts that we just looked at. But as I scroll down, all on the same page, right, I see a financial chart of my plan by phase. I see my total spend by phase, my life-to-date spending, right? I see some financial data. As I scroll down farther, I see some laboratory data and field data information. I can run a report here right in screen. Still scrolling. I can see my compliance information, right? I can see my audits, permits, and my notes, all within this single page. So this gives me information to talk about this site and give a high-level summary all on a single page. Yeah, so see how you can use that. Try testing this out at some of your different sites and try looking at the data here, and hopefully you can find some good information. Okay, let's talk a little bit about reporting. And I have a whole webinar, right, on reporting, and I want you to watch it because we talk about so much stuff. We did it almost a year ago. And it's fairly updated, but I want to talk about some of the highlights from this reporting training. One of the main things I want to talk about, same thing, we get a lot of support questions about this. Running the most basic, the most simple reports is using this left panel. And in the left panel, we have this link, and it says Advanced Search. And once you click it, this is the most simple and straightforward reporting in ENFOS, right? So let's say I wanted to see my invoices that were paid in the month of June. I'm going to select Finance, Invoice. I have really basic report criteria, right? And in that report criteria here, I can choose my status of my invoice, right? I just said I wanted to see paid invoices. And I can do a lot of different features, but I said anything that had been done this month, right? So I'm going to put in there we go. I'm going to leave my end date. When I click search, that's going to give me my search results. You can recognize this looked a lot like your action items, right? It's that same kind of very basic and straightforward filtering criteria to show you the results. Once you get those results, you can download them. Now I have this other link here, and you know, when we do implementations, we talk about a lot about your hierarchy. And we've got this link for the use the current hierarchy node and below. And when you click this link, what it does is it takes where you are in ENFOS and only gives you the results for the nodes you have access to for that hierarchy and below. So it's a quick way for me to see all of my transactions. You know, maybe I want to see everything that's within the US that's been paid this month. Now that's just our finance. We have, you know, really similar things with all these different modules. Let's say I want to see all my active sites. Maybe I want to see all my active sites in a different, you know, specific state. One of these here in advanced search actually has a lot more information in it and different functionality. So our top ones here, these are all, you know, really straightforward, basic, easy reporting. If you're not already using these, you absolutely should. It gives you easy, clear data. This document search, though, is really amazing. ENFOS indexes the documents that are loaded into our system. And we index those it takes about 15 minutes after you load a document. And this document search allows you to search the content in your document. Now, the exception, of course, are things like pictures, things that the computer can't automatically read. But if I search, you know, let me just search benzene and click search, I get 2 results, right? And these are, the name benzene is not in the file name, but it's within that document. And this gives me all of my results. If I click on this link, it downloads the actual document, right? Whereas on other pages, it doesn't always give that download right away. So this is an amazing search. It searches that content within your document. So your document advanced search, amazing. All of these other advanced searches lets you do really quick, easy reporting. When we here at ENFOS have to look up anything, we always go to advanced search first. Right, so definitely use that. Within reporting, we have a few more features. All right, I'm on the Run Report page. Report favorites. Report favorites here at the bottom of the page, saved a favorite. It's awesome if you save a report as a favorite, because then under My Reports, you're going to have those reports saved. So instead of clicking, you know, 4 clicks to run a report, you can go to My Reports and click once and have your same report output. This is great for things that you're doing again and again, right? Paid invoices or documents loaded this month, activities I have assigned to me. Now, my example here was our invoices, right? So what we have in the report criteria is relative date range criteria. And, you know, there is not enough time in the world to talk about all the report criteria features, but within a single report, we have custom report criteria, which allows you to filter the rows back that you're going to receive. And within that, I know you guys are familiar with this. What we have is this relative date range criteria. So instead of setting an approved date, let's say, you know, January 1st forward, I can make it relative and I can say, I want all my invoices this quarter. Then when I save this report as a favorite, it's always running based off of this quarter or last quarter this year, you know, whatever you set up here in the criteria. So you no longer have to update your report criteria to reflect new dates. You can use this relative date range criteria. It's really awesome. It's designed to make using ENFOS quicker and easier because we know you're running similar reports with different dates. I'm gonna, so I gave you a quick overview of the report criteria, I just want to remind everyone on the report customization. The customization allows you to filter your columns down and define how they're sorted, right? So you can select the columns you want to see. Anyone who's run this invoice report knows that there's a ton of awesome data in it, but a lot of times you don't need all that data, right? So you can select the columns you want. You can also reorder it, right? So if the first thing you want to see is that vendor, you can put vendor first. All I did was drag it and drop it in where it belongs. So it's a really quick way, so you don't have to sift through all of the columns within that report to just get those fields that you need. Click cancel. All right, now I talked about report favorites. The report favorites, you can see those right in your My Reports, but you also can schedule reports once you have a report saved as a favorite. And when you schedule a report, ENFOS automatically emails you and any other email address you list in that distribution list. So you don't even have to log in to ENFOS, right? That absolutely makes using ENFOS quicker when you don't even have to log in. And those emails, right, they don't have to be users. Look here in my delivery section. All it is a box, so you can type in anybody you want. Now, just keep in mind the report output, especially for employee account users, that we're just sending out an attachment. We're not checking user permissions. So don't run an invoice report for all vendors and send that out. Otherwise, all your vendors are going to see all the invoice information. Make sure who you're sending it to has access to see what you're running. All right, so we've got the, the name. If we're going to schedule that job, is that job repeating, right? Invoices approved last quarter. You can repeat this let's do it every quarter. You define what day it starts on. Maybe I want to have this run on July 1st, and it never ends, ever. Right, you define your frequency, and then here's your delivery and the file type. A lot of people do not like it to send out in a zip, right? It's one more thing you got to do is unzip it. So just unclick your zip. File type XLS. So any of the people who really are using CSV files know CSV strips out leading zeros. That's a pain. Here's where you can get Excel reports. What's also amazing is if you have an Excel report, you can add one or many reports. So I can add 2 of my favorited reports, or however many I want. And now I'm getting a report output with tabbed reporting, right? So I can get my plans on one tab, my purchase orders on the next tab, and my invoices on the last tab. And I get a full report automatically emailed to me. One last thing on this page, the do not send report if blank. This functionality is so cool. It basically allows you to set up a custom alert. So for example, we had a client that wanted to make sure that invoices were not added at a specific project. So what we did is we set up a daily report, any invoices at this project. And then we clicked this checkbox, do not send report if blank. And what that does is if the report's blank, if no invoices had been created at that project, then no report was generated. But if any day an invoice was set up, now that report's going to be sent out, and you get basically a custom alert, right? So you can set this up for any of the reports in ENFOS. Maybe you set it up for your activities, right? Send me an activity report each day where I'm listed as a contact, or set something up with a site status to inactive. So this do not send report if blank works like a custom alert. All right, we're going to talk about financials. I'm at my site level, and I'm going to go to Finance Planning Lifecycle. And what this does is it rolls up my information, right? So I'm not at the project level. Anyone who does financials in ENFOS, they know those are all at that project or the AOC level. It rolls it up, so I can keep going up, right? Let's go to Kentucky. And I see that same data, but now the number's a little larger, right? Because I'm rolling maybe more projects within this state. And I can go all the way up to my company level to see, my plan amount. I also have a chart on this page. And this chart is just a quick output report. It's taking a second to load, of course. But I can download this information to show me my chart data. Now, this roll-up that I showed here at the top, I showed you here in planning. We can also view it in our purchase order or our invoice information. So it's a quick way to use that hierarchy to roll up your data. All right, I'm not going to let my, my chart work here. All right, so plans. I saved this page as a favorite. I bookmarked this plan page. It's listed here in my bookmarks, so it was quick and easy for me to navigate to this section. We have, I'm going to delete this one, 2 features I want to talk about here, and delete is not one of them. Okay. 2 features I want to talk about here. We have clone. Now this clone exists for planning and it also exists for proposals. And it does exactly as it sounds, right? It clones your plan and it copies over that information. It's really awesome because it makes creating your next plan or your next proposal easier and more simple. Obviously, you have a chance to edit that information before you save and submit it. Let me just do add. I want to show you one more item here. And this is new functionality. It's been, it's been available for a couple of quarters now, but I want to remind everyone 2 things. First, we have our plan effective date up at the top of the page, and that's really critical, right? That plan information one. Second thing we've always had copy previous plan. Now we have copy plan balance. And what that does is it does the math for you, right? Instead of having to figure out your balance by your WBS, now ENFOS automatically copies it over based off of that effective date that you defined. And now you just enter in your information, right? So let's say I have a $5,000 adjustment. Instead of having to calculate what my my total plan amount is, I can just enter in my 5,000. Let's just put it here. And that is added in. Obviously, I know some of you are thinking, well, I could always just add in 5,000. But what ENFOS was doing, if you copied previous plan, it was not copying the balance. So you might have already spent some of the money that was there. And the balance is going to show you exactly that adjustment. So if I click save, there we go. Here's my adjustment for approval, 5,000, just as I had hoped for. So that's just less arithmetic for you to do, right? A little less math in the day and make it easier for you. Okay, as we go into proposals and invoices, we're going to talk a bit more here. We've got the clone. We've got the clone for proposal. I want to remind everyone we've got the column sorting at the top of the page, right? I can sort everything by those column headers. I can use my current year only button to see my approved financials in this current year, right? It's a quick way to filter it down. Speaking of filtering, on so many pages in ENFOS, we have this set filter. It's a great way to filter the data you see. And this is going to look so much like your action items and so much like your advanced search proposal. It's a quick way, right, to filter down this data. I want to just see proposals in the invoicing status. Refresh it, continue. There we go. I'm going to turn my filter on. There we go. Admins, keep in mind, people forget they leave their filters on. Once you turn that filter on, it stays on until you turn it off. We've got this big blue banner, but it doesn't change it. People are always coming to you. My invoice is gone. What happened to it? It's there. You just have to turn that filter off. All right, we can export your proposals, right? So not only do we have clone, but we can also export this proposal, which exports it down into a CSV file. You can make edits. Maybe you're going to change your dollar amount. Then you can import it back in. You can also import in bulk, right? Import your proposals in, you load your file, and then you can submit one or many, proposals onto your client for their review and approval. You can do that for invoices too. It's on a slightly different page. That's on admin transfers, EDI transfer. And each one of you, you're going to see this a little differently based off of the client settings, but you view the file format. Here's all the columns and rows, the valid values as required, and you can import your EDI. You can also do a test EDI import, right? That test EDI, really important because it checks that format, your valid values, before it actually loads any data. All right, admins, I got one last item for you. Under tools, a lot of our administrators forget this. Under updates, we have a lot of functionality. We can update contacts in bulk, right? You can do a search and replace. You can download documents in bulk. You can update document passwords, and you can do your plan roll forward, all here in bulk based off your hierarchy. So keep that updates in mind as you're working through your projects. All right, Chris, I'm going to pass it back over to you to say your closing. We've got some questions that are coming in here. Feel free to send additional questions over, and we're going to work through some of those. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Torrie. Honestly, it looks like we have quite a few questions here. We can jump right into the questions if you'd like.
All right, Chris, you didn't even give me a chance to take a sip of water. All right, well, yeah, we'll jump into some questions.
Yeah, Torrie, first question is, if I have 3 or more tabs open, how do I choose which tab to split with?
Yeah, great question. Let me open another one, finance plans. Okay, I've got 3 tabs open. If I want to split my screen and see my project and my plan, you can see I see the circle on my background tabs. I choose that link on the tab I want to split it with. So there we go. Click it, and that's how I choose which two. If I want to unsplit again, right, I click that again, or I can just close any of those tabs.
What is the limit for how many bookmarks you can have?
Oh gosh, good question.
It's 30.
30. George is here to tell us that there's 30.
And that's 30 per section.
30 per section, great point, right. So maybe you save 30 for sites, 30 for finance, et cetera, if you've got more than 30.
Do bookmarks impact running reports?
No, bookmarks do not impact running reports, right? Bookmarks are just there for you to make your navigation easier and quicker.
How do you define a snapshot as the budget?
Someone was in the PM desktop and saw that budget was not defined. Okay, under finance, planning, balance, we have a section, and we see this in the PM desktop too, called budget. And don't get confused with your terminology for budget. This is just an ENFOS budget. Listed here, it does not control your approval limits, anything like that. It's really just a financial snapshot. And then you define it as the budget. So the first step, admins, you would take a snapshot. And I don't know if I have a snapshot listed here, but you would take a snapshot. The second step, I'm not even going to look at those. Second step is you define that snapshot as a budget, and then you see it in those screens.
And when are those snapshots usually taken? Yep,
usually taken at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of your fiscal year. It could also be every quarter. That's really kind of up to each client to define.
Do we have a report on user log information?
Yeah, okay. Do we have a report on user log information? Absolutely. Admins, this is something you probably get questioned from your IT group. Under admin, we have this report called user log, and it records what happens to the users. This is a good reminder for the users too. It records user IP addresses, user logins, user login failures, right? So, and other actions, right? So if you delete transactions, or if you delete documents, that's listed, your report running, etc.
Can I share my user account?
Can I share my user account? No, you cannot. That violates your ENFOS account here. So do not share user accounts.
Got a great question here on the activity module and integration with other modules.
Okay. Okay, activity module and how does that integrate? We did not talk much about our activity module, right? This is a calendar submodule within ENFOS. This integrates with other modules, right? So your data, planned sample events, your compliance permits, your compliance audits, or if you just add in your own activities, right? I can add in an activity here. All of those will work together to build out that activity calendar. Remember that activity calendar you see here in your left panel. You also can see it in the activity submodule. And we have a way to view, right? I can view all of my activities. So I can view this at my parent node and see all of my activities for all of the projects and AOCs and sites I have access to.
Next question is a request for the ENFOS conference page on our website.
Yep.
How to get to that?
ENFOS.com, ENFOS.com, and then right here at the top is a nice orange link. Save your seat. You can see a picture of me on that one, and George too, of course, and all of our other speakers that'll be speaking at the conference, and some additional details. Chris, I know you are working hard to continually update that.
Next question is, when will BI be available?
Yeah, so when will BI be available? So it's already available in production. Your administrators have access to that. And you know, there's small exceptions. We have a couple clients that we're still working through that with. But those administrators have access, and they're in a period now where they're testing and building that out on their own. When they're ready, they can enable that submodule to their users and to their user permission groups. I know, at the conference, George is doing a lot of training sessions on BI. So if you are interested in building out the BI or seeing, you know, more what ENFOS has to offer for BI, that those training sessions with George are going to be at the conference. He is absolutely our BI expert here. All right, cool. I know we covered a ton. Oh my gosh, at least 47 things plus all these questions. It hasn't even been an hour. Keep sending in questions. We're going to keep running through those. As Chris mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to be posting this recording and making it available on that new tab link. We also know there's certain clients and people who were not able to attend today where we're going to be emailing that link out. So as any more questions roll in, we're going to answer them and we're going to stay on the line here. But otherwise, thank you everyone for your time today.
Got another question that just came in. How do I create a report with different information on different tabs? So I think that's the scheduled report with multiple reports.
Ah, got it. Okay. First step, if you want to create that scheduled report or a report with multiple tabs, is save your reports as a favorite, right? Save each one of those reports as a favorite. You set up your report and then save it down here. Then you go to Reporting Scheduler. Create new job. You would fill out, you know, the information here at the top of the page. Make sure that your file type, right, is XLS, because you cannot have multiple tabs in CSV. That's not ENFOS, that's Excel. And then the reports in job, you click Add. And this is where you can add one or many reports. And these are all going to be separate tabs. Now, you know, we've talked about scheduling this job to run automatically. It doesn't have to work that way. You don't have to schedule it. You can set it up to know, and you can choose to share this, right? So let me say, yes, I am going to share that. That means other users can see this report, right? So if you've created a great report and you want to share it, you can set that up. I'm going to call this test. I'm not scheduling that. That means it's always listed here. Here's my test. And instead of emailing it out to me, I just click run And this report runs in the screen, and it's going to show a download right when it's available. I actually don't know what I'm downloading. It could be big. It'll download on the screen where I can download it, open it, and I'm going to see multiple tabs. It's awesome functionality. If you're not already using the scheduler, there's a lot of different use cases. I'm going to close that. All right. Keep sending your questions over, and we'll keep answering them. You know, at the beginning, we talked about if there's something in ENFOS that you're thinking, you know, there has to be a better way to do it. And we didn't talk about it today. Send a note over to us on this webinar. And if we don't have a better way to do it yet, you know, we want to know from you, how can we make it better? And what do you suggest? And what do you think is the best way to do it, right? That's how our product is improved. And we want you guys to know that we're here, and we want to make it better. Now, obviously, I work for ENFOS. Everybody here in the room with me works for ENFOS. We use ENFOS, but we don't use it the same way all of our attendees use it. So your feedback really is important to us.
How do you change the location of a site or project?
How do we change the location of a site or project? Okay, there's a couple ways to answer this one. I'm going to go to our site, and in our summary, we've got the address, right? So I'm in site summary. I can click edit. I could change my address. And I know some of you, right, your sites, they're not really places with a mailbox, or they're very large sites. So they're not, you know, the site location is not just from the mailbox. We've got the latitude and longitude, and if that's provided, we use that. If it's not provided, we've got this Geo Code Link. And what that does is we just pull it from the address and populate that data just based off of the address. And that defines where our site location is on our map. But let's say it's slightly off, right? Or, you know, it's a big site and we want to move where our site locator is. I'm going to go to Site Maps, and I'm going to look at my site information, and I see a edit button. Now this edit does not change the data in that site summary, but what it does is it lets me move my site marker. Maybe let's say my site is actually right, you know, here, slightly off of where it was loaded. I moved that by clicking my edit button. I click Save Edits, and now my site is just, you know, in its own correct location. So keep that in mind. You have a few different ways to move your site or project.
And if the actual site needs to be moved within the hierarchy.
Ah, yes, right. So let's say your site here, maybe you're reorganizing your hierarchy. Maybe it was loaded into the wrong state. We've seen some things here at ENFOS, right? There are administrative tools. The admins can pick up branches in the hierarchy and move them to where they belong. I'd say talk to your admin, then admins talk to us. It can absolutely be done. It just takes a little bit more planning. All right, with that, we are up on our time. So we are going to end it. Thank you everyone very much for attending today. We really appreciate all of your feedback. All right, have a good day.